Hello and welcome back to the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute course on maintaining optimum brain health and fitness. I'm Dr. Leonard Matheson, your peer leader. This is the fifth and final session of our course in which we talk about community connectivity and high quality of life longevity. Today, we're going to add a neurological method to develop high quality of life. Actually, it's a neuropsychological method because it's a blend of my knowledge of neurology and psychology, 50 years of experience working with both. But honestly, it's really just logical. This is a logical method to develop high quality of life. It's a method that's going to make sense to you. It's a method that you may have some experience with from your early life. I'm going to help you bring it back and dust it off and use it intentionally. And so, let me get started with the context for today's talk by contrasting this sheep brain with this human brain. While there are many differences between the two, the human brain is much more capable of being socially engaged than any other brain on the planet. Many mammal and cetacean and avian brains have social capacities, but not to the great extent of our brains. The key resource that we'll use to develop high quality of life involves character strengths. This method is designed to increase your engagement with your community and to expand your community through a focus on developing character strengths. Research conducted by Martin E.P. Seligman and Chris Peterson and their colleagues has defined character strengths as morally positive capacity for thinking, feeling, and behaving that can be developed to benefit oneself and others. Let's take a look at bravery as an example. The character strength of bravery is defined as not shrinking from threat, challenge, difficulty, or pain, speaking up for what is right, even if there is opposition, acting on convictions, even if unpopular. A wonderful example from our lifetime is Ruby Bridges, here depicted in this Norman Rockwell painting as the first grade girl in New Orleans being escorted to class by federal marshals in 1960. It's safe to say that Ruby was well on her way to developing the character strength of bravery. The bravery character strength of many other people was forged in the experiences in which Ruby was the focus. It took a lot of bravery on the part of a lot of people, emphasizing the morally positive nature of this character strength. Both of her parents lost their jobs. Her grandparents were driven off their sharecropping farm. Norman Rockwell himself had to leave the Saturday Evening Post after many years because they were not open to his emphasis on civil rights. This painting actually appears as a centerfold in Look magazine. There is a lot in this painting to ponder. And here is a photograph of Ruby leaving school, being escorted home by federal marshals. And do you know who this is? This is one of the other heroes of those times, Barbara Henry. Let's meet Barbara.
I had no idea who would be in that class. I just assumed it was a first grade class in a desegregated school.
Henry was ready for the new challenge, but she was not ready for the scene in front of her school on the first day.
My husband followed me in his car, and when we saw the enormous crowd fronting the school, it was quite stunning, totally unexpected. And so he got out of his car and he said, "Oh, what do you think?" And I think it was a rhetorical question. I think he knew my answer. It was essential that I be there, and however I got there, it was frightening. I walked to the front door by myself, unaccompanied with the raging crowd behind me, rang the doorbell, and I sort of charaded my introduction. I'm Mrs. Henry. And the man left the door. And I thought, oh, so what do? I'll ring the doorbell again. And the same thing happened. The man came down and I tried to make him understand who I was, and he left. And I really pretty much panicked, and I thought, what am I going to do? I had no one with me to help me out at all, to know what to do. And I thought, well, there's no choice but to pursue this and be persistent. So I rang the doorbell the third time, and the door opened, and he said, "I'm sorry, we thought you were a reporter." Freed from the wild and noisy mob and the anger outside, I entered that building, and the federal marshals apparently decided they would sneak Ruby in the back door and evade the mobs waiting for her at the front door, and where they could drive their limousine up to the door of those doors and scoot her in quickly. Those doors instantly opened, and amidst this towering presence of federal marshals stood the most beautiful little girl one could ever dream of seeing, looking so delicate, so unaware of the mantle for change she wore that day. And as I went over toward her to introduce myself, she came forward, and I think she felt she was pretty special, and she was, and she looked that way. She beautiful pink dress, party dress, and everything matching. And really the only clue she wasn't going to a party was that she carried a lunchbox and a school bag. And as I walked over to meet her, her bowed head sort of raised gently, and a little smile came across her face. And then those beautiful big brown eyes that she still has rose to meet mine. And you know, it was a case of love at first sight. How could you not fall in love with a child like that in a moment like that? And so, leaving behind a cameo of the past, Ruby and I held our hands, left them, walked together upstairs to our first grade classroom in an empty corridor, empty school, and began our solitary adventure.
Henry traveled to Chicago and nervously waited for Oprah to call her onto stage, wondering if she would be able to recognize the little girl who 36 years earlier braved the shouting and spitting protesters.
So when I walked up the stairs, there she stood, gorgeous, stunning, tall, black woman, no longer the little girl in the cute little party dresses. There was this stunning, tall woman with, I remember, a blazing red jacket and very short black leather skirt, looking positively smashing. But what hadn't changed was that lovely smile and those gorgeous brown eyes. It was just as if time had evaporated in a way between us. And there we joined hands, sat down together, just like we did so many years before in our little classroom in New Orleans.
Was that hard for you, Barbara?
Well, it was so wonderful to have a little student like Ruby that it really made it a pleasure. It was a sad time indeed, and it was an anxious time.
Was it a surprise to you when nobody came to class?
I assumed I would be teaching a class, and so we had a grand time together, I think, side by side, just the two of us spent the year together.
So now, being an adult woman with perspective, don't you find that just remarkable that she was able to do that?
I do. I really do. She didn't have any friends. I mean, she was coming from Boston into the South. She was ostracized, and she actually taught me the lesson that I say Dr. King taught all of us. And even though she was white and she looked exactly like the people outside the school, she showed me her heart. You know, she made school fun. I never missed a day, and it was because of her.
Ruby and Barbara and the federal marshals and many others demonstrated the character strength of bravery, handling threats and challenges, speaking up for what is right. And one of the most exciting findings from our research is that character strengths can be developed. Let's stick with bravery as an example. If you'll take a look at the Character Strengths Rating Scale PDF now, you'll see 24 character strengths organized into 6 virtue categories. Bravery is one of 4 character strengths within the virtue that we call courage. Courage is also composed of persistence and integrity and vitality. People who are exemplars of courage generally have high levels of all 4 of these character strengths. New York firefighters running toward the Twin Towers on 9/11, working to evacuate one tower after the first tower has collapsed, carrying their injured brothers to safety, young recruits training for combat, mature service members going back to the front lines again and again. And now with the COVID-19 virus, we have even deeper appreciation of courage as a character strength for healthcare workers and grocery store workers and a host of other people that we now recognize for their courage.
New York does remain the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in the U.S. Doctors, nurses, and medical teams who are in that state are bearing the brunt of a surge of seriously ill patients. William Brangham recently spoke with two who were on the front line about their work.
Adam Blyden is an EMT, an emergency medical technician in Rockland County, about 25 miles outside New York. Same with Pierce Matthews. They both drive ambulances, responding to 911 calls across the county. Like so many places in New York right now, coronavirus has become all-consuming. I spoke to the two of them the other day. As a percentage of the calls you're getting now, how many would you assume are coronavirus cases?
100%.
100%?
100%.
Yes. The rarity of getting a regular emergency, which sounds crazy, a regular emergency where someone needs our help right away and we can do something, in 10 calls, you may have one. So it's almost 100% are either confirmed cases or suspected cases.
That has got to be, I don't know, want to put words in your mouth, but nerve-wracking. Like, if every person you possibly interact with, sometimes very, very close, if you're worried that person has coronavirus, that's got to be, mentally exhausting.
It is. That coupled with the call volume going up drastically, in most cases more than doubling your call volume every day. So a shift that you might see, 8 patients on, you're getting called to 16 to 20 different houses. We're going from 100 calls a week to 200 to 250. It's intense. It's really intense.
It's scary, and I would say a better word to use is terrifying, especially when you don't believe you have the correct PPE to use. And it's scary. We're scared just as much as the regular person, But, we have to do this job. We signed up for this. This is what we do for a living. And, EMS personnel and hospital personnel are proud to do it. But it's very scary. It's not that they're very infectious. That is obviously the case, that COVID is an infectious disease. But it's also that the people that we're seeing may not live. And as EMS and healthcare workers, we're used to trying to do our best to save lives. So it's emotionally taxing, I think, on the healthcare personnel.
Last week, me specifically, there were at least 3 patients who I had seen earlier in the week who I came back to work a couple of days later and found out they had passed away. I was just there. How quickly, was that she went from being alive to not alive anymore, or he went alive to not being alive.
That's got to make the statistics that we see, these numbers and cases going up every day, we see them as bar charts, but for you guys, it seems obviously a lot more visceral.
Yeah, it's not a chart, it's not a graph, it's a person who you saw, who you touched, who you spoke to, and now they're not. Now they're, sadly, they've gone on to become a statistic. That's one of the harder parts of this for sure.
Last night, I got off at 2 a.m. I went to a friend's house to evaluate his father, who is bedridden, who was diagnosed with pneumonia. I cried from the station to his house, and in front of his house for probably about 2 additional minutes. Because during my shift, I worked for 24 hours straight. I couldn't really, I couldn't really have emotions because I was working. We have to do our job. We all have to do our job. We signed up for this. This is what we have to do. We have to, treat these patients and make sure everything is okay, and treat the community. And after the end of my shift, I broke down. I cried. Just thinking about everything that I had to see. The patients that I knew probably would not make it.
On top of that, we have the fear. Have I been exposed? Am I going to give it to someone else? All of us, you ask anyone in emergency services, we're all immortal. You can't kill us. And now it's getting closer to home that we need to start considering our own health as well. I think yesterday we lost, they were retired guys, but there were 2 firefighters who passed away yesterday from this. Those are guys who gave their whole life to their fire departments. So it's getting closer and closer to home for all of us. It's no longer, if we're going to be exposed, that's gone. We're all going to be exposed. We don't know when.
On top of the stresses of the job, of worrying whether they themselves might get sick, many EMTs also have to work for low pay and few benefits.
The average salary for an EMT in New York State, doing what we're doing through all of this, is about $37,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, right now, both Pierce and I, everyone who's doing what we're doing, we're juggling, usually it's 2 or 3 jobs just to keep working so we can pay our bills. We do this because we love it. Everyone knows there's no money in it. But right now, I'm doing all of this with no health insurance.
No health insurance?
No health insurance.
How is that possible? It doesn't come through the job.
The job doesn't offer it, and our affordable marketplaces aren't very affordable. If I get sick and I go get tested positive, I can't go to the hospital. Literally life or death is what's going to put me in the hospital. It's scary. And, people come out and they show us the support, and I love it. I've eaten so much pizza in the last 2 weeks. It's been great. I don't need pizza. I need to be able to pay my bills. I need to be able to work a 40-hour work week and live like a normal human being.
I know you guys have probably seen all these videos of people clapping out when there's a hospital shift rotating out. And I mean, I hope you know that everybody out there does on some level appreciate how crucial you all are to keeping all of us safe.
I appreciate you saying that, and it's tremendous support, and we need it because it's not easy. It's really not easy. We're scared also. The general public is scared about this virus, and we are too, but we also know that this is our job, and we love to do this. This is something that you have to have passion for, helping people, and on the medical side, just making sure, fixing people and making sure they're okay is something that we like to do. We love to do it. So it makes us feel really good when we feel the support from the regular people and also from other agencies like police and fire. I appreciate that a lot.
Research in more than 130 countries and our own research here in the U.S. now shows clearly greater strengths of character are related to better quality of life, no matter your age. In fact, the relationship is even more direct and strong the older you are. To the degree that you have developed your character strengths, you're more emotionally resilient and more optimistic and more confident. I use this with my patients who come to me to treat depression and anxiety. I also train combat veterans and first responders in what I call the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise. They've already made a great start with their lived experiences in their careers, and I help them harvest the resilience they've built into their sacrifices. And I've built it into brain restorative sleep to take advantage of the neuroconsolidation that takes place as we sleep. I want to encourage you to use the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise to promote your own character strength development. In these uncertain times, it's especially important to do what you can to develop your emotional resilience. I'd like to help you set the stage to thrive in the next chapter of your life story. In the bedtime ritual section of the sleep diary, we find the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise and character strength development, along with using prayers of gratitude and either personal mantra relaxation or personal prayer relaxation. This sets the stage for your brain to do a lot of really good work while you sleep. The Healthy Hippocampus Exercise is based on the functionality of the hippocampus as the gateway for much of the information that enters your brain to become the memories that comprise your life narrative, your story. I'd like to ask a question. Do you believe that you can write your own story? As a child, many others wrote in your storybook, helping you and sometimes forcing you to develop a perspective on who you are as a person. As you move through adulthood and now in older adulthood, you have more discretion and more control about who writes in your storybook. The Healthy Hippocampus Exercise presumes that you're interested in writing your own story, and you want to improve your intentionality about having a healthy autobiography. For our class today, I want to emphasize the idea of autobiographical memories. These are the memories that we choose for ourselves, thus the term autobiographical. Another way to look at this is how we write our own stories. How we think about ourselves is a narrative that we have with ourselves that is very important for us to guard and nurture. And so, step 1 in HHE involves you rating yourself on the Quality of Life Rating Scale. This scale was developed by Dr. Brian Kemp many years ago and has been well researched and used throughout the world to assist people with severe disabilities to put their lives back together in a way that allows them to eclipse their life circumstances and develop high quality of life. I'm dedicating today's session to my mentor and friend, Brian Kemp. Dr. Kemp was a psychologist who received the American Psychological Association's Lifetime Achievement Award for his work in the rehabilitation of people with severe disabilities. He died a few years ago after a very severe and complex illness. Although he was blind and totally paralyzed, up to the moment that Brian lost consciousness, he maintained high quality of life. The model that he offered, and that I endorse, begins with the belief that you have some control over your life. It continues with optimism that with effort life will turn out well. The next component of high quality of life has to do with your openness to experience. And of course, high quality of life requires motivation to try something new and to persevere. And finally, high quality of life includes the desire to seek knowledge as a lifelong learner. On the Quality of Life rating scale, 1 is my life is very distressing. It is hard to imagine how it could get much worse. 7 is my life is great. It's hard to imagine how it could get much better. 4 is my life is so-so, neither good nor bad. In the past week, if your quality of life has been poor, you may rate yourself at a level 2. Not absolutely terrible, but certainly it could be much better. Alternately, if in the past week your quality of life has been reasonably good, not absolutely great, but strongly positive, you would rate yourself at level 6. What I'd like you to do now is to stop and take just a moment and consider your life over the past 7 days. Over the last week, taking everything into account, please rate yourself along this scale. And now we'll turn to step 2 in the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise, where you use the Character Strengths checklist to rate yourself. This is a checklist that I based on the work of Seligman and Peterson, published in 2004, in their text, Character Strengths and Virtues. So in step 2 of the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise, use this checklist to rate yourself in terms of an exemplar. Rate yourself 1 if you've got low character strength compared to your exemplar, or rate yourself 5 if you've got as much of the character strength as your exemplar. On the Character Strengths checklist, you'll find that the first 5 strengths are organized into a factor called wisdom. This is what we're going to focus on today, because wisdom provides a lot of leverage for healthy social engagement for people of our age. So now you need to think of an exemplar. Can you identify someone whose character offers a healthy comparison? Someone who could be a model in terms of character strength? You get to choose the person because to the degree that you choose wisely, you will be more or less successful. What I tell people is to be careful who you look up to because you're writing your own story now. On a personal basis, some people select as an exemplar their spouse or a parent. They may select another relative they admire. They may select a coach or a teacher that has made a substantial influence in their lives. How about Ruby selecting her first grade teacher, Mrs. Henry? Other people will use as their exemplar a spiritual leader or the founder of a faith. They may choose Abraham, the founder of 3 of the major religions of the world, or Moses, who led the Jews out of slavery in Egypt, or Jesus of Nazareth, or the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Americans often select Abraham Lincoln or Martin Luther King Jr. as exemplars of people who displayed extraordinary levels of character strength. Choose wisely. This is the person you're going to use as your exemplar, against whom you're going to compare your character strengths as you complete the character strengths checklist. So now, take a moment and go through the 5 character strengths that have to do with wisdom. Rate yourself from 1 to 5 on these 5 character strengths. Take a moment and do that now. The third step in the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise is to select a character strength to work on. The way to do this is to select a lagging character strength, one that's relatively low, if your quality of life is at 5.5 or above. However, if your quality of life is below 5.5, choose a signature character strength. A signature character strength is one that you're already pretty strong on. If you're struggling with depression, select one of the transcendence character strengths. The idea here is to improve your quality of life by choosing a just right challenge. Remember that a just right challenge is a meaningful task that has a level of difficulty just beyond your ability. Given extra effort and focus, you should be able to meet the challenge. But without that extra effort and focus, you will fail. So select the character strength to work on carefully by using the quality of life rating scale to guide your selection. The fourth step in the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise is to put this into play. As part of your bedtime preparation, I want you to recall 3 episodes from the day in which you displayed more of the character strength today than you did yesterday. I want you to briefly bring the episodes to mind before you drop off to sleep. And I want you to repeat this for 30 days. Why do we require 3 episodes? There are 2 reasons for this. First, you're trying to change your behavior by trying something new. Thus, you actually have to try something new. Cognitive behavioral therapy calls this behavioral activation. In behavioral activation, it's necessary to go beyond thinking and link this thinking to doing in order to guide your neuroplasticity. Thinking and doing go together. Behavioral activation recruits neuroplasticity to reinforce the character strength. And as we guide our neuroplasticity, there is a neurological process called long-term potentiation that helps neural networks develop if we begin with a thought that leads to an action. Both the thought and action must occur together. We talk about this when we say, neurons that fire together, wire together. Learning must go beyond a thought or idea to be instantiated in behavior. That combination of a thought or idea leading to a behavior is what's necessary to optimally develop a neural network that can sustain that behavior on into the future. But there's a sneakier part of the requirement for 3 episodes, and I want to tell you about it. 3 episodes will be a stretch for most people. A big stretch, as you feel the pressure to identify 3 episodes at the end of the day before you drop off to sleep. It's going to cause you to look for and maybe even create 3 episodes during the preceding day. Your behavior will change as you're working on the neural networks that will support this character strength. So it works at both ends. Your thinking changes and your behavior changes, and those occur in the same process. It's a very powerful method for improving character strength and thereby quality of life. And I want you to repeat this for 30 days because practice is required to develop a dominant neural network. And to help you reinforce your behavior, I want you to repeat the quality of life rating scale on a weekly basis. If you're diligent about the Healthy Hippocampus exercise, you're going to notice that your quality of life is gradually improving and stabilizing at a new level. And to wrap up our introduction of the Healthy Hippocampus exercise, it's important that you understand why it works. Basically, it's because information entering the hippocampus is converted into long-term memories, part of your life history. This process is called neuroconsolidation. Information collected throughout the day becomes consolidated into meaningful memories. To optimize neuroconsolidation, we focus on the information that's entered into your brain just before you drop off to sleep. Information entered into the hippocampus just before sleep is better integrated and organized. You can think of this as organizing information in a filing cabinet. There's a logic to it. Every file folder has a particular place that it belongs. And within each file folder, the information is organized in terms of temporal sequence. The most recent information is in the back of that particular folder. As we get older, our file cabinet becomes larger and larger, so this information and integration becomes more and more important. One of the key aspects of this organization is the time indexing capacity of the hippocampus. It's like the hippocampus has its own time clock and calendar built in. Without a strong hippocampus, our filing system can look like this. The information is here someplace, but how the hell do I find it? The neuroconsolidation driven by the hippocampus operates in the background all the time. To help you get a better grasp of its importance, I'd like to share with you a simple example of what happens when your hippocampus is offline. What I'm about to show you is a video of a woman who is experiencing transient global amnesia. This is a benign problem from which people completely recover. It appears to be related to levels of stress that are difficult to tolerate. It's definitely not a stroke or a brain injury. It typically lasts about 24 hours. Although people are often hospitalized when they experience TGA, the main reason for hospital involvement is to rule out a stroke and to keep the person under supervision until their cognitive function has returned. What you're about to see is a person who's in a hospital bed conversing with a person who appears to be her daughter. Her daughter is very patiently assisting her mother to use the rest of her brain to bring her hippocampus back online. This is a video clip that medical students and psychology students study closely. It's very helpful in understanding how the hippocampus sets the stage for the development of memories. And so, here is It's Tuesday.
Okay, so what's the date?
August 24th. It's Tuesday.
I'm trying to remember the last date I remember. I'm trying to think from work. Work meetings. I'm trying to remember the last date I remember writing now, because I don't remember past my birthday. I mean, I don't remember my birthday just
You don't remember your birthday, yeah.
Yeah, that must have just been recently.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
I'm trying to remember. So you said it's August. It's in August?
Mm-hmm. Do you know what the day
Towards
is?
the end of August? No, I don't know.
Do you remember what day of the week it is?
No, I don't have any idea what day
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. And it's in August.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, how weird. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember.
You remember what day of the week it is?
No, I don't have a clue. August.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Is it after my birthday?
Yes.
This is so creepy.
I know.
How bizarre.
Do you remember what day of the week it is?
Tuesday.
Yes. There you go.
Tuesday. And it's already past my birthday though?
Yep.
What happened?
You were working in the garden, and you gave me a call and said that you were feeling confused. You weren't sure what day it was. And so we called the paramedics and had them come and pick you up. And you took an ambulance here. And then I came and met you, and they did a bunch of tests on you. And you have temporary amnesia. They don't know what causes it. It's just something that happens. Usually lasts up to 24 hours.
So I'm trying to remember the last thing that I remember.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what day of the week it is?
I don't have a clue.
It's Tuesday. It's
Very
okay.
confused.
It's okay.
How weird.
Yeah, but you're okay, so you don't have to stress about it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember. And it's August?
Mm-hmm.
It's already after my birthday?
Yep.
Darn. Can't at least do for my birthday again?
Yes, we can.
No.
Actually, you'll remember it again in a little while.
Well,
Yeah.
It's
just temporary.
Was I working in the yard or something?
Yeah,
And
you
got
were-
overheated?
Do you know what day of the week it is?
That I don't have a clue.
It's Tuesday.
How long have I been here?
2.5 hours.
So I went to work yesterday?
No, you took yesterday off too. So you had yesterday and today off.
Why?
Because you were getting some work done on your car. And so you decided to get a rental car and get some things done around the house. So you took a couple days off work and you were doing some gardening this morning, and then all of a sudden you just like couldn't remember anything. So you called me and we called the paramedics and they came and got you, and then I met you here.
Gosh, how wild.
I know. Girl, it's like Groundhog's Day in here. This is like every 2 minutes. We're doing a loop.
Yes, the same thing again?
Yes, we do that. We have had the same conversation over and over again every 2 minutes for the last 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours?
Yes,
Get out of here.
I know.
Same thing? 2.5
Same thing.
hours? I think 2.5
Yeah,
hours?
we can't seem to talk about anything else. That is what we're talking about today.
What day of the week is it?
Tuesday.
And so what can we learn about the hippocampus from this clip that is pertinent to the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise? Basically, the hippocampus puts a timestamp on the information comes in and helps us to keep our thoughts organized. As you look back over your life, the temporal organization of your memories when something happened in comparison to when something else happened was set up by your hippocampus. So in many ways, your hippocampus provides the indexing system for your life story, the index for your autobiography. Information gathered over the course of the day becomes consolidated as you sleep, and recent information is more easily recalled and therefore potentially more impactful than old information. New information more easily retains its effect on us. We take advantage of this in the Healthy Hippocampus Exercise. And so, thank you very much for participating. Here are the 2 Optimum aging references that we have for this week. The first is Dr. Kemp's Quality of Life, What It Really Requires and How to Get It. The second is my book, Your Faithful Brain, Designed for So Much More. Both are available on Amazon. And remember, we are not our parents. We are BOOMSERS. Actually, I just made that up. I'm borrowing from Brian Kemp's BOOMS. High quality of life is dependent on belief that you have some control over your life, optimism that with effort, life will turn out well, openness to experience life more fully, motivated to try something new and persevere, seeking knowledge as a lifelong learner. So we are BOOMSERS. And actually, one of these young ladies is my sister. This is back in the day when she went with a friend to see this gentleman at the Inglewood Forum, July 11, 1975. Do you remember Mick? He's also a BOOMSER. So thanks very much. I'm Len Matheson, neurorehabilitation psychologist, signing off for now. Take good care.